Welcome the anointed ones. The streets don't write history books, but they do keep receipts. Every block, every corner, every whispered conversation has an archive of who's real and who's fake. And here's the fact most people overlook. Reputations in the streets travel faster than Wi-Fi. Before your own family understood who you were, the streets already had your story on rotation. They know the truth-teller who never cracked under pressure. They know the protector who stepped in when everyone else turned their head. And they know the one who, no matter how heavy the weight, refused to fold. But here's the twist. The streets don't hype just anybody. You can't pay for this recognition, you can't fake it with Instagram filters, and you can't cheat your way into it. The streets only respect what they can't bend, and that's you. Now, don't get it twisted. This doesn't mean everybody loves you. Far from it. Some are shook, some are salty, and some are secretly wishing you'd just vanish, but even your enemies had to give you a nickname in their private conversations because ignoring you became impossible. You see, that's how respect works out here. They might not clap for you in public, but behind closed doors they replay your survival story like a mixtape they can't admit they love. And let's be real, isn't it a little funny? The same people who once doubted you are now acting like they always knew you had it in you. Like really? Where was that energy when you were fighting battles nobody else wanted to touch? But hey, that's the thing about being the truth-teller and the protector. You don't need applause to validate it. The streets already stamped it. So tonight, let's talk about why your name hits differently now. Why the whispers have turned into echoes. Why the streets don't just know you, they've archived you into their unwritten history. Number 1. The streets don't respect titles, they respect proof. The streets don't hand out respect just because you ask for it. They're not impressed by loud mouths, fake toughness, or fancy titles. What they watch is proof, day in, day out, when no one is clapping, when life is heavy, when everything is designed to break you down. That's where respect is born. And that's where you stood out. You never had to beg anyone to see you. You didn't post a highlight reel to convince people you were strong. You didn't stage an act to look unbreakable. You simply lived, and your living became undeniable evidence. The streets watched closely. They saw when people turned on you and expected you to collapse. They saw when you had nothing left but your own backbone to lean on. They saw traps laid out like bait, waiting for you to stumble, waiting for you to fold under pressure. But you didn't. You stayed true, even when betrayal was the only thing being served at the table. You didn't crack when the gossip spread. You didn't switch up just because it would have been easier. That's the kind of proof you can't fake. And proof is what separates those who talk from those who are. Anybody can claim they're solid, but the streets test everyone. They don't care how confident you sound. They'll throw fire at your foundation just to see if you're made of wood or steel. And every time you were tested, you revealed what you were really built of. That's why your name started moving quietly from mouth to mouth. Not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it with scars, resilience, and consistency. The irony is that people who worked the hardest to break you only made your credibility stronger. Every setup that failed, every rumor that didn't stick, every betrayal that couldn't stop you became part of your resume. That's what made your story spread faster than lies ever could. In a world full of people folding for attention, folding for money, folding just to belong, you stood there and proved you couldn't be bent. That's why the streets know who you are now. Not as a character, not as a myth, not as someone with a loud mouth and no backbone, but as the truth-teller, the protector, the one who doesn't fold. That's the kind of proof that gets carved into memory, long after the noise dies down. Number 2, fear and reverence came from the same place, your consistency. Fear and reverence don't come from the same reasons people think they do. Most assume fear comes from intimidation and reverence comes from admiration. But in reality, both are born from consistency. The streets don't fear you because you throw your weight around or because you put on some tough act. They fear you because they can't figure out how you stayed the same in a world where everyone bends to survive. That unshakable consistency is what separates you. Think about what the streets usually see. People who swear loyalty one day and switch sides the next. People who talk about morals until money shows up. People who claim to be solid until a little pressure cracks them wide open. That's the norm. Folding, switching, betraying. So when someone like you shows up and actually lives by principles that don't move with the wind, it shakes people. It forces them to confront their own lack of spine. And that confrontation can either turn into fear or respect, but it never leaves people neutral. The reverence comes from those who secretly wish they had your strength. They admire how you stayed upright when everything around you was pulling you down. They respect how you didn't trade your soul just to get by. They see in you a standard that proves it's possible to survive without selling out. They might not clap for you in the open, but deep down they know you're someone rare. The fear, though, comes from those who benefit from lies, manipulation, and weakness. Your presence threatens them because it proves their power is built on shaky ground. They can't buy you, they can't bribe you, they can't tempt you into folding. That makes you dangerous to their system because your steadiness exposes their fraud. And what people can't control, they fear. It's that mix, fear and reverence, that cements your place. You're not just another name drifting through the gossip mill. You're the one who didn't bend, and that makes you unforgettable. People might never admit it out loud, but they measure themselves against you. They know you set a standard they couldn't meet. That's why the streets can't ignore you, because your consistency forced them to see what real strength looks like. Number 3, you became the mirror. They can't escape. You became a mirror people can't escape from, and that's what unsettles them the most. It's not that you went out of your way to expose anyone. It's that your very existence does it without you saying a word. The streets are full of people pretending to be solid, pretending to be brave, pretending to live by codes they break every single day. When they look at you, they're forced to confront the gap between what they claim to be and what they actually are. That reflection makes them uncomfortable because it strips away their excuses. Your strength highlights their weakness. Your honesty makes their lies louder in their own ears. Your refusal to fold reminds them of all the times they did. And once people see themselves in that mirror, they react in different ways. Some get angry at you, not because you hurt them, but because you remind them of the truth they've been trying to bury. Others secretly respect you because deep down they wish they had your courage to live without compromise. Either way, no one can look at you and feel nothing. That's why your name keeps coming up even when you're not around. It's not gossip. It's a reaction to the fact that you unsettle people without trying. You hold a standard that makes others rethink their own choices, and not everyone likes what they see when they compare themselves to you. Some will try to downplay you, hoping that if they discredit your name, they won't have to feel so exposed. Others will try to attach themselves to you, hoping your strength will cover up their weakness. But no matter what role they play, they can't escape the reflection you provide. The truth is, your life became a kind of measuring stick. Without announcing it, without asking for it, you became the silent test of authenticity. If someone claims to be real, they're automatically compared to you. If someone claims they can't be broken, people think of whether they could have handled what you endured. That mirror effect is powerful, and it's why your presence carries weight. You don't have to shout it. You don't have to explain it. Just by being who you are, you reveal who everyone else really is. That's why the streets know you. They can't stop seeing themselves in you. Number 4. The protector role wasn't chosen, it was forced. You never set out to be the protector. It wasn't a dream you had as a kid, and it wasn't a title you went searching for. Life cornered you into it. You kept seeing people get taken advantage of, manipulated, or chewed up by predators who wore masks of friendship, leadership, or even family. And something in you couldn't just sit back and let it happen. You realized that silence is agreement, and passivity is permission. So whether you liked it or not, you became the one who stepped in when everyone else stayed quiet. That's why the streets call you protector. Not because you walk around with some badge of authority, but because you became a line no one could cross without paying for it. You didn't let people get away with treating the weak like disposable pieces. You weren't afraid to say no when others were too scared to speak. and that set you apart. In environments where most people look out only for themselves, you carried a responsibility bigger than you. The irony is that being a protector often cost you more than anyone realized. You stood up for people who sometimes couldn't return the favor. You risked your own peace and safety to keep others from being destroyed. You carried burdens that weren't yours because you couldn't stand watching injustice swallow people whole. It wasn't about being a hero. It was about not being able to stomach cowardice, and that's what makes it powerful. But here's the part most don't understand. Protectors aren't born out of comfort. They're born out of necessity. The streets know you as protector because they saw you draw boundaries when no one else had the courage. They saw that you didn't fold when predators thought they had free rein. Your protection wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, mental, and moral. You became proof that there are still people who won't let wickedness go unchecked. Now your role is stamped. Even those who dislike you secretly know there are limits they can't cross around you. It's not because you wanted authority, it's because life made you the wall that injustice keeps crashing against. The protector role wasn't chosen, but it became who you are, and the streets will never forget that. Number 5. People believe you because you don't benefit from lying. People believe you because there's nothing in it for you to lie. That's the difference between you and everyone else who runs their mouth. Most people twist stories to gain something, money, status, attention, or to tear someone else down so they can look bigger. But when you speak, there's no agenda behind it. You're not out here chasing clout. You're not feeding off gossip, and you're not looking for applause. You speak because the truth is too heavy to keep buried. That's what makes your voice hit differently. The truth teller is feared not because of how loud they are, but because their words carry no strings attached. You don't have to sell it, exaggerate it, or dress it up. You lay it bare, and people know it's real because you gain nothing by exposing it. That's a power most people underestimate. They can brush off lies and rumors, but when someone with no motive starts talking, the streets listen. Even the ones who can't stand you. The very people who wish you'd stay silent can't ignore you. They know deep down you're not speaking to get ahead. You're speaking because silence would make you guilty too. And that's what makes you dangerous. You don't mind standing alone if it means standing on the side of truth. You don't mind losing people, status, or opportunities if it means you didn't betray your own integrity. That independence makes you untouchable in ways no money or power ever could. What really rattles people is that your words stick. They echo long after you've said them, because everyone knows there's no hidden catch. You're not saying it today just to change your story tomorrow. You don't bend your narrative depending on who's in the room. And that's why people talk about you even when you're not around. They may hate your boldness, they may try to discredit you, but when you speak, it plants a seed they can't uproot. That's the mark of a true truth teller. You don't speak because it's convenient, you speak because it's necessary. And that necessity makes people pay attention, whether they clap for you or curse your name. They believe you because in a world full of lies for profit, you're the one with nothing to gain and everything to stand for. Number 6. The streets test. Everyone, you're one of the few who passed. They put you through everything they could think of and you still stood upright. The streets don't hand out respect for stories or promises. They hand it out for endurance. Rumors were started to watch how you'd react. Setups were staged to see if you'd bend. Fake alliances were cooked up to test whether you'd sell out for survival. Each trap that was set was meant to break you, and every time it didn't, your reputation grew louder without you having to shout. Tests aren't polite. They're messy, personal, and often shameful. People tried to make you look weak in public, to force you into choices that would betray your values, to make your name synonymous with failure or guilt. Those who run the streets know how to pressure someone into folding, appeal to fear, threaten what they love, or give them an easy out that costs them everything that matters. Most will take the easy out because survival feels urgent. You didn't. You survived the pressure without selling the truth. That's what sets you apart. Survival here isn't about luck. It's discipline, timing, and a cold willingness to carry consequences. Each time you refused to play along, people watched and recalculated who you were. Those who wanted you gone found out that their techniques didn't work anymore. Those who depended on lies realized their toolkit was worthless against someone who wouldn't bend. Your calm after chaos became the new proof, the kind people respect because it's verifiable and painful to earn. The streets reward those who pass visible tests, because tests reveal character when everything else is theatrical. Anyone can act brave for show. Very few stay steady when no one is watching and when the cost is real. Your consistency in those hard moments created a reputation that rumors couldn't touch. The failures of the setups became examples, not stains. The betrayals that were supposed to break you became reasons people started to trust your name. Now that you've passed the gauntlet, your presence changes how people behave. They weigh their moves differently because they know the ground you walk on won't give way. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. Your survival did that. That's why the streets recognize you not by what you say, but by what you endured and overcame. That endurance is the currency that made you rare, and rarity commands attention and respect in places where trust is usually bought and sold. Number 7. You made cowards uncomfortable simply by existing. Your presence becomes a kind of silent accusation, and that's what makes cowards squirm. They aren't reacting to a single speech or one brave move, they're reacting to the steady cadence of your life, how you show up, how you handle pressure, how you keep your word when everything around you is collapsing. That steadiness exposes a truth most people work hard to hide. They survive by bending, by looking the other way, by choosing convenience over courage. When you stand unmoved, their coping strategies are suddenly visible, and visibility breeds discomfort. Cowards build their lives around plausible deniability, quick exits, and alliances that shift with the wind. Those tactics depend on fog and noise. You remove both. Your calm presence clears the fog and turns noise into evidence. People who relied on camouflage to get by find themselves exposed. They get nervous because every interaction with you holds a mirror to their shortcuts and half-truths. That nervousness looks like anger, gossip, passive aggression, or sudden bursts of defensiveness. Those reactions are a map, showing who feared being seen for what they really were. Being the person who makes cowards uncomfortable is not glamorous. It means you handle petty attacks, subtle undermining, and silent freezes with the same quiet resolve you bring to bigger fights. It means you don't retaliate for every slight, because retaliation would prove you're easily rattled and give them the satisfaction they crave. Instead, you show that their tactics don't change you. That refusal to be baited shifts the balance. People learn you won't supply the drama they need to feel powerful. That truth unsettles them further because it strips away their control. Your presence also rewrites expectations. Where people assumed collaboration would require compromise, they now know there are boundaries that won't be crossed. That knowledge changes behavior. Opportunists stop leaning in, manipulators start second-guessing their moves, and fair-minded people breathe easier because someone finally held a line. Your steadiness becomes a deterrent and a standard at once. In the end, making cowards uncomfortable is a byproduct of integrity, not a goal. It's the consequence of living in a way that refuses shortcuts, refuses betrayal, and refuses the easy lie. People who thrive on instability feel threatened because your consistency undermines their system. Their unease is evidence that you matter in ways they cannot replicate. That discomfort is a quiet victory, proving that your presence alone shifts the game and forces everyone to reckon with the kind of person you are. Number 8. They tried to erase you, but the streets archived you. They tried to erase you, and every attempt only made your story louder. Smear campaigns were launched, lies were fed into loud mouths, people were nudged to look the other way, and isolation was the method. Cut you off from allies, cut you off from platforms, make you invisible. That was the plan. Bury your name deep enough that the next tide would wash it away. Instead, every attack became a record. When someone spread a lie, the streets compared it to what actually happened. When alliances turned fake, witnesses remembered who stood firm and who switched. People who tried to rewrite your story didn't realize the neighborhood keeps receipts. Small details, quiet favors, backroom truths that don't vanish with a trending post or a staged apology. Those little facts collected like coins in a jar, and over time they added up into proof. Isolation was supposed to be the final blow, but it ended up sharpening you. Without the noise, your actions became clearer. Instead of drowning in the smear, you focused on living in a way that would outlast gossip, steady, accountable, and true. The streets started to notice the pattern. Every attempt to silence you left fingerprints. Every rumor that fell apart added to your credibility instead of subtracting from it. People who had once been unsure began to see what was consistent and what was manufactured, and they began to archive your reality in their own conversations. There's a brutal irony to it. People who wanted to erase you worked harder to make your name permanent. Their lies made people curious. Their betrayals made people skeptical. Their desperation made them sloppy. The streets don't honor manufactured reputations. They honor earned histories. And your history wasn't just surviving the attacks. It was the way you treated people, the favors you never advertised, the debts you quietly settled, the times you showed up when no one else would. Those things don't disappear because someone with a loud voice tries to shout them down. They get passed along in the margins, in whispers, in the late-night checks on who really helped who. Now your story sits in the underground archives. It's not on a polished billboard or in a flawless PR release. It's in the lived memory of people who saw you act when it mattered. That's the kind of record that can't be erased by trending lies. Attempts to bury you only dug deeper into the concrete where you were already standing. And now your name is part of the foundation. Number 9. You redefine power as self-control, not chaos. You changed the definition of strength in a place that used to applaud noise and fury. People measured power by chaos, who could roar the loudest, start the biggest scene, or scare others into submission. That used to be the scoreboard. You rewrote the rules by showing that the real advantage is the opposite: calm, discipline, and the ability to choose your moves instead of reacting to every provocation. Self-control is quiet, but it's strategic. It's the power that refuses to be baited, that keeps long-term gain above short-term wins, and that turns emotional explosions into predictable, manageable outcomes. When everyone else was proving themselves with drama, you proved yourself by not joining it. That didn't make you weak, it made you precise. Restraint meant you avoided mistakes others made in the heat of the moment. It meant you didn't trade reputation for a cheap victory or hand your enemies ammunition by losing your temper. People may have mocked your silence at first, but they eventually learned to read it like a signal. When you move, it's intentional. And when you stay quiet, you're calculating the right response. That kind of control forces people to treat you differently because it removes the randomness they count on to maintain power. Control also forces accountability. When you don't give in to theatrics, people can't hide behind noise anymore. They have to face the facts of who they are and what they did. That's terrifying for those who depend on chaos to cover guilt, incompetence, or selfishness. Your discipline exposes their methods without you having to call them out in dramatic fashion. It's clean and it's effective. People bow not because they're scared of physical force, but because they see that you won't be riled into making mistakes they can exploit. There's another layer. Control breeds consistency. When your actions are measured, others can predict that you won't back down from core principles, even if you're patient about tactics. That patience becomes a weapon, one that wears down flashy rivals who run out of steam. It forces the environment to adapt to you rather than you adapting to its chaos. Over time, this flips social economies. Those who once traded integrity for noise find themselves sidelined, while your steady approach becomes the standard others aspire to or resent. In short, you taught the streets a new kind of fear and respect. Chaos can frighten, but self-control commands. It's less noisy, far less showy, and infinitely more dangerous to anyone who built power on unpredictability. That's why when you step into a room now, people don't just notice. You shift the rules of engagement without saying a word. Number 10. Even enemies acknowledge you behind closed doors. Even your enemies know the truth when no one is watching. Publicly, they trash your name, spread lies, and try to make you look weak. They act like you're just another person to dismiss, but behind closed doors, the story changes. In private, they admit the things they would never say in public. You never bent, you never compromised your principles, and you survived challenges they assumed would break anyone. That duality, the public attack versus the private acknowledgement, is one of the clearest signs of your impact. This is the kind of recognition that can't be faked or bought. Titles, awards, or loud praise don't hold the same weight as quiet acknowledgement from those who would otherwise work against you. If someone who has every reason to dislike you still respects your resilience, it proves that what you stand for is undeniable. Your authenticity becomes a force that transcends opinions, gossip, and envy. Even if they hate you, they can't erase the fact that you held your ground when everyone else expected you to fold. It's also a strategic kind of victory. When enemies know your worth in secret, they are forced to account for it in every move they make. Their schemes are tempered, their lies are measured, and their alliances shift because they have to factor in your steadiness. That unseen respect changes the dynamics of power without you ever having to announce it. It's subtle, but it's irreversible. The truth is, this kind of acknowledgement is far more valuable than any public applause. It signals that your reputation has reached a level where even those who oppose you cannot manipulate it. They know your story, your strength, and your consistency are facts, not narratives they can control. Your presence in the streets, in your community, and in the circles where power is measured becomes untouchable because even your adversaries recognize it privately. This is why enemies can talk all they want, but your influence remains intact. You don't need them to validate you publicly. Their private acknowledgement is proof that your authenticity and resilience are permanent. When even the opposition concedes your strength behind closed doors, you've already won a status that no award, title, or social media clout could ever give you. You exist as a benchmark, a standard that can't be ignored or denied, and that's a victory the streets will never forget. Number 11. The streets respect survival without corruption. Surviving is one thing, but surviving without compromise, that's what sets you apart. The streets are full of people who got through life, but almost everyone paid a price they didn't have to. Their morals, their integrity, their relationships, or their sense of self. They bent rules, crossed lines, or sacrificed values just to make it another day. You didn't. You faced the same pressures, the same threats, the same temptations. But you didn't trade your soul to stay afloat. That's why your name carries weight, because it represents survival with dignity. And dignity is something no one can fake. The difference is visible to everyone paying attention. People notice who slips under pressure and who stands firm. They notice who compromises to gain favor and who refuses to compromise even when it costs them. Your consistency in staying true, even when survival was on the line, makes people respect you in ways that money, influence, or noise never could. Respect like that isn't granted lightly. It's earned in moments where every decision could have broken you. You made those decisions, and you made them without selling out. There's also an unspoken influence that comes with surviving clean. Those around you see that it's possible to endure and still hold on to principles. That alone shifts dynamics. Opportunists who rely on shortcuts now know they're competing against someone who doesn't cut corners. Liars and manipulators see a standard they can't meet. The streets notice, and your reputation grows quietly but powerfully. It isn't flashy, but it's permanent. What makes this even more exceptional is that surviving without corruption isn't just about avoiding compromise. It's about presence under pressure. It's about showing up, making the hard choices, and protecting yourself and others without taking the easy route. That combination of endurance and ethics is rare. It's why people whisper your name, why they check themselves when you're around, and why your story spreads even among those who might not like you. In the end, the streets respect survival without corruption because it proves a truth everyone understands but few can live by. Strength isn't in bending the rules, it's in holding your ground when the world expects you to break. Your survival isn't just proof that you made it, it's proof that you did it right. That kind of survival can't be copied, faked, or bought, and that's why your name resonates differently. Number 12. They thought isolation would break you. It built you. When the streets turned their back on you, they thought it was the final blow. They assumed isolation would weaken you, silence you, or make you desperate enough to bend their way. They believed cutting you off from allies, from support, from visibility would make you crumble. Instead, it became the opposite. Isolation didn't break you. It built you. It forced you to rely on your own strength, sharpen your instincts, and refine your strategy. Without distractions or false allies, you learned who and what really mattered, and you grew in ways they never anticipated. Exile became your teacher. In the quiet of being left alone, you studied your own limits and discovered new capabilities. Every challenge that came while you were isolated became a chance to strengthen your resilience, to master your emotions, and to develop a sense of patience and precision that others lacked. While people expected you to weaken, you were becoming sharper, more calculated, and more difficult to manipulate. Every attempt they made to control or intimidate you failed, and each failure added to your growing reputation. By the time you re-entered the spaces that once rejected you, you were a different force. The people who left you alone now had to face someone who couldn't be swayed by their usual tricks. Their tactics no longer worked because you had built defenses they hadn't accounted for. Isolation forced you to understand that the real power lies in self-reliance and clarity, and it equipped you with a confidence that's impossible to fake. There's a quiet irony to all of this. The same people who assumed they were controlling your fate by abandoning you inadvertently created the very person they feared. Their attempt to erase your influence only magnified it. Now, instead of being vulnerable, you are untouchable in ways they can't manipulate, and they are forced to reckon with the fact that their own actions strengthened you. Isolation didn't just teach you endurance, it gave you control over your own narrative. The streets that tried to erase your presence now archive it as a lesson. Underestimating you is their mistake, and thriving alone is your weapon. What they meant to be your undoing became the forge that shaped someone who could not be bent, silenced, or controlled. That's why your comeback isn't just noticed. It's feared, respected, and unavoidable. Number 13. Your reputation outran their rumors. Rumors only work when people don't have a way to check the truth. They spread because uncertainty makes noise powerful, but reality has a way of catching up, and your reality caught up fast. Your actions, your endurance, your consistency became louder than any story anyone tried to invent about you. Every lie, every whisper, every attempt to twist your reputation collided with the undeniable facts of how you lived. People who were hearing rumors had the opportunity to see you in action, and when they did, the stories didn't match. The lies couldn't survive being measured against your truth. Your record became your strongest argument. People who once doubted you, who listened to the gossip with curiosity or malice, started comparing the claims to what they witnessed. Your decisions, your resilience, and the way you carried yourself didn't just contradict the lies, they demolished them. The streets began to notice patterns. While others were talking, you were acting. While others were folding under pressure, you were standing firm. While others were bending for advantage, you held your ground. That contrast made your reputation grow faster than any rumor ever could. The irony is that those who tried to smear you inadvertently reinforced your credibility. Every rumor was a test of whether your truth could hold against fabricated attacks, and every test you passed added to your legend. People started seeing that the stories were empty, and that what really mattered was the person in front of them. Reality outweighed gossip because you lived it fully and without compromise. Lies only look convincing when people don't have the evidence of integrity to measure them against, and you gave everyone that evidence. Over time, your name developed its own gravity. Rumors lost momentum and your life became the reference point. People stopped spreading noise because it no longer mattered. Your presence, your reputation, and your actions had already rewritten the narrative. The streets respect someone whose truth can outpace lies. They recognize that gossip has limits, but authenticity doesn't. You didn't have to shout, post, or exaggerate. Your life spoke louder than any rumor, and that is why your reputation will always outlast the noise. Number 14. You became a symbol without trying. You didn't set out to be a symbol, and that's exactly why you became one. Symbols aren't crafted in speeches, social posts, or self-promotion. They're forged in experience, in endurance, and in the kind of consistency most people can't maintain. You lived through challenges that would have broken anyone else, and in doing so you became proof that strength isn't about aggression or flash. It's about holding firm when the world expects you to crack. That endurance, repeated day after day, turned your name into more than just a label. The streets recognize you because of what you represent, not because you advertised it. You became the living example of someone who refuses to fold under pressure, who maintains integrity when shortcuts are everywhere, and who protects those who can't protect themselves. Your actions have weight. Your reputation carries lessons without you ever having to explain yourself. People talk about you not because of hype, but because your presence alone communicates a standard others can't ignore. There's an unstoppable energy in being a symbol without trying. It means your life tells a story that can't be edited, fabricated, or silenced. People see you and understand on some level what it means to survive with dignity, to face betrayal and adversity, and to come out standing. That story becomes shorthand for survival, truth, and protection. Your name doesn't just represent you. It represents what you've endured and the values you embody. Love it or hate it, the streets can't erase what you've become. You're no longer just a person in a crowd. You're a reference point, a benchmark, and a warning all at once. People measure themselves against you, question their choices, and even those who oppose you have to account for your influence. That's the quiet power of being a symbol. It exists whether you seek it or not, and it grows stronger the more challenges you survive. In the end, your significance isn't built on applause or recognition. It's built on the undeniable truth of who you are. That's why your name resonates differently now. It's no longer just a name. It's a symbol of endurance, strength, and unshakable presence, and the streets will remember it long after the noise dies down. The streets don't hand out respect lightly, and they certainly don't reward empty words or false bravado. What they do honor is endurance, integrity, and the kind of unshakable presence that can't be faked. From the way you refused to fold under pressure, to the way your truth outpaced every rumor, to the way your resilience turned isolation into strength, every action carved your name into the memory of those who tried to overlook or erase you. You became a protector without choice, a symbol without seeking it, and a benchmark for authenticity that even your enemies acknowledge behind closed doors. Your journey proves something few can claim. Survival isn't just about making it through. It's about making it through without losing yourself. People talk, lie, and scheme, but your reality speaks louder than any of it. The streets don't just know your name, they archive it, pass it along, and measure others against it. Your reputation isn't built on noise or fear. It's built on proof, consistent, unshakable, undeniable proof that you are someone who stands firm no matter the cost. This is the truth that resonates everywhere you go. Power is not about chaos. It's about control. Respect is not about appearances, it's about consistency. Influence is not about popularity, it's about endurance. And you embody all of it effortlessly. The people who doubted you, tried to isolate you, or spread lies about you are now witnesses to what they could never break. Every challenge, every betrayal, every rumor only added to the force you became. So the streets know you. They know the truth teller, the protector, the one who doesn't fold. And whether people love you, hate you, or fear you, your legacy is already set. You are untouchable in ways that go beyond titles, applause, or recognition. Your story is a blueprint for survival, a manual for resilience, and a symbol of authenticity that can't be erased. If this message resonated with you, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the truth the streets already know. Like this video if it hit hard, comment below with your thoughts or experiences, and share it with anyone who needs to hear it. Your support helps spread these real, unfiltered insights and keeps the message alive for everyone who refuses to fold. Don't just watch, be part of the movement. God bless you.